Not all Americans are experiencing the same U.S. economy, hence the K-shaped economy. What did you guys find out when it comes to the U.S. economy and how Americans really feel about it?
Like we said in our piece, there's kind of warning signs about it. We have, certainly good signs of economic growth, for example, but it's kind of being driven by AI related investment. Like you said, we're seeing strong consumer spending, but a lot of that's being driven by wealthier households who have benefited from the stock market rally, and lower income folks are not benefiting as much and certainly pulling back on their spending. And ultimately, we just saw that the U.S. economy seems to be working for some voters, but not for others. And certainly, we're seeing that reflected in the consumer sentiment data that shows low confidence in the direction of the economy, and even political surveys that suggest that President Trump's approval rating and his handling of the economy has kind of declined since he's been in office.
Well, you and the team also saw with some Harris poll data for Bloomberg, and I'm wondering what it found, whether or not the U.S. economy is working for respondents under President Trump.
And we kind of saw the dichotomy in that polling as well. We saw overall that a majority of adults don't think the U.S. economy is working for them, but we saw higher income folks, folks making $100,000 a year and more, thinking that the economy is working for them, or certainly more people who have money think the economy is working for them than people who are lower income. So again, sort of the K-shaped economy where, if you're at the upper spur of the K, things are great and you're doing well. But if you're in the lower spur of the K, you don't have as favorable a view of the economy.
Yeah, we've got a chart up there right now. And the question is the U.S. economy working for you under President Trump? And for those who are listening on radio, it's split into colors, yellow, red, purple. And is the U.S. economy working for you? Those who are making a lot more money, higher income, the majority, the red, are saying, no, I'm sorry, that's under, I'm sorry, reduced. The top line is for those not making a ton of money. So that red is showing predominantly, no, not working. And you go to the bottom line, and that's incomes over 100,000. And you can see in yellow, which represents yes, that they are saying that it is working better. What about when you go Democrats, Republicans versus independents?
Yeah, it's kind of what you would expect. The Republicans tend to think the economy is working for them more, or at least they support the president's policies and think the president's policies are working and helping the economy. Democrats, not so much. But what's interesting in that polling is you're seeing increasingly independents thinking the economy is not working for them or not approving of President Trump's economic policies, which could be, again, a warning sign for Republicans heading into the midterm elections next year.
Well, just very briefly, manufacturing. You go through a host of data in this story. Manufacturing and the resurgence that the president talked about on the campaign trail, is that materializing?
Not in the data so far. We haven't had jobs data since August, but what the data we had up until then showed that manufacturing had lost jobs for the last 4 months, about 42,000 jobs, which is the longest losing streak since the pandemic. The Institute for Supply Management's index of manufacturing has been in contractions for 8 straight months. So this manufacturing renaissance that the president has talked about and promised has not materialized. In fact, it's going the other direction, where manufacturers in particular are kind of paralyzed by Trump's tariffs and not willing to move forward with investments and hiring, even if they're incentivized to do so from the one big beautiful bill that was passed in July.